Hey guys, how are you? So, how do hipster coders look at programming? Well, this is what a hipster coder would do if they were a boxer. They would say, I only code in red gloves. If you're not coding in your red gloves, the code's going to be garbage. You have to have red gloves. So if I was a boxer who acted like a hipster coder, I'd say, no. Good boxers only box with red gloves because red gloves are much faster. Everybody knows that. If you're not coding in the new red gloves, your code's going to be slower. You have to code in red gloves because as a boxer, if you're not using red gloves, forget it, you're a loser. But then other coders will come in and say, well, no, I use black gloves. Black is bad. You got to use black gloves if you're a good fighter. If you're not boxing with black gloves, you're a loser. Because everybody knows the good boxers always have black gloves. Come on. What are you doing? Red gloves. Who uses red gloves? When you have red gloves, people can see your punches coming much more quickly. When you have black gloves, especially if you got a black t-shirt on, nobody sees when the punch is going to come out. So black gloves are always better than red gloves. All right, that was a silly video. I'm just trying to make my point that the programming language doesn't really matter in the broad sense. Whether you're an expert at Java or Python or PHP or Swift, doesn't matter what, JavaScript, of course, doesn't matter. All you have to do is look at the job at hand, look at the job market, and look at what the type of programming that you want to do. You may find that writing Swift mobile apps, Swift is fantastic. You may really enjoy that process, and that's cool. Like some boxers will prefer certain gloves from a certain company. So these gloves are these are twins gloves from Thailand. Very popular. I think they're from Thailand. Very popular with MMA guys, at least they were when I was doing it. Very popular with the Thai boxers. And I wasn't doing MMA, I was doing boxing, but I trained in an MMA gym. Anyhow, I got these gloves actually when I went to Thailand. So there you have it. The gloves that you wear is not going to affect your ability as a fighter, although as a fighter you're going to have certain types of gloves, certain brands, certain weights you're going to prefer based on how your hand is structured and so on. And same thing with programming. Certain types of programming you will prefer based on your personality type. You may like to write algorithms that are highly complex in C, or maybe you're going to be doing lots of algo work in Python when you're doing AI. Or maybe you're much more of a visual person. You want to put together stuff using Swift for iOS apps. You know, you get the idea, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So try not to anyway, get caught up in the whole idea that you have to be a coder of this type of language or that type of language, that it defines you and your worth. What you'll find in your career that is going to change over time. It's going to change over time. I remember when JavaScript was a joke language. For years and years and years, JavaScript was like, you know, and just in the last several years, JavaScript has become quite possibly the most important language in the world today. And this will last, who knows? It could last 2-3 years, it could last 5 years, who knows how long it will last. But I wasn't defined by the language that I preferred at a particular moment. My favorite language in terms of raw number of lines of code I've ever written, Java is the most code I've ever written. Partly because Java is such a long-winded language. But I really loved Java more than anything else. But you know what? I made a lot of money as a developer with other languages other than Java. And so my suggestion to you is that you become language neutral. You become the boxer who says, I prefer red gloves versus black gloves, but my skills are not dictated by which color gloves I wear. And your skills as a software developer shouldn't be dictated by which language you prefer to use at the time, because that will change. Because you're going to be silly to try to write AI in PHP, although I've seen people do it. I've seen people put together some machine learning code in PHP. Perfectly capable of doing it, but it would be kind of silly to do it since everybody else in the world is writing their AI code in mostly Python. It's by far the most dominant as far as I can understand. You know, again, I'm not trashing PHP. I'm just trying to say you got to consider that things will change, market forces will change, the type of job you're working on will change. And so if you learn to be a little separated and remove the need to identify with a particular language as it being your major tool sets, you're going to be way ahead of the competition, way ahead, way more flexible. And what you also find is with each new language that you learn, programming language that you learn, you're just going to get much better at programming. When I learned my second programming language, and then my third, and my fourth, and my fifth, every new language I got a little bit better because every language has a different way of looking at writing code, writing software. And I would see, well, it's also a lot of similarities, and then I would see these nuanced differences, and it would just give me a deeper understanding of programming development in general. So learn multiple languages, not all at the same time. You start with one, you know, one that will get you going. I always recommend WebStack because it gives you all kinds of flexibilities. You can go freelance, you can go work for companies, small companies, big companies, you can do mobile. It's the most flexible coding languages out there. HTML, CSS, those are markup and design languages. Then JavaScript, which is the programming language. And then from there, you got a whole slew of different choices. You know, if you're doing freelance, it's PHP, maybe second place JavaScript, but mostly PHP. If you're going to be doing, anyway, I'll stop. I've talked about this in other videos. So there you go. That was the point of this video. Be language neutral, my friends.